The phone buzzed again, and this time, Carter Whitfield noticed the way Sloane Harrington's smile didn't reach her eyes. She flipped the screen face down, too quickly, like she was hiding something fragile or dangerous. "Just the girls," she said, her voice smooth, almost rehearsed. Carter didn't respond right away. He simply watched her, the way someone watches a crack slowly spreading through glass. Because something about that moment didn't feel small. It felt like the beginning of something unraveling. They were sitting at a quiet corner table in a high-end restaurant in Greenwich, Connecticut. The kind of place where conversation stayed low and wine glasses never stayed empty. The kind of place Carter had chosen carefully because tonight was supposed to mean something. 2 weeks earlier, he had proposed to her, and she had said yes without hesitation. But now, sitting across from her, he felt something shift. Sloane picked up her wine glass and took a slow sip. Her posture was composed, elegant, controlled, but her fingers tightened just slightly around the stem. The phone buzzed again. This time, she didn't even look at it. She just reached over and pressed the side button, silencing it completely. Carter leaned back in his chair. "Busy group chat," he said casually. She smiled again. "Yeah, you know how they are." But Carter didn't know how they were. Not like this. Because Sloane wasn't the type to ignore people mid-conversation. She wasn't the type to mute anything unless she had a reason. And Carter had spent the last 3 years learning her patterns. Learning the small, invisible details most people never notice. That's what made this feel different. Dinner continued, but the rhythm was off. The conversation felt thinner. Each pause lasted just a little too long. Sloane talked about a work presentation she had earlier that day. Carter nodded, asked the right questions, smiled when he was supposed to. But his attention kept drifting. To the phone, to the silence between buzzes, to the fact that she hadn't picked it up again. Halfway through the main course, Carter excused himself. He stood up slowly, his movements controlled. "I'll be right back," he said. Sloane nodded. "Of course." Her tone was neutral. Too neutral. Carter walked toward the restroom, but he didn't go inside. Instead, he stopped near the hallway mirror, staring at his own reflection. He wasn't angry. Not yet. He was calculating. Because there's a moment in every relationship where instinct whispers before truth speaks. And right now, his instinct was louder than anything else. When he returned to the table, Sloane was holding her phone. Her expression changed the moment she saw him. Not dramatically, just enough. She set the phone down immediately. Screen facing down again. "Everything okay?" she asked. Carter sat down. "Yeah." He picked up his glass, took a slow sip. Then he asked quietly, "Who's texting you?" There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. "Like I said," she replied, "just the girls." Carter nodded, but he didn't push further. Not yet, because he understood something most people don't. Truth doesn't reveal itself under pressure. It reveals itself over time. And he was willing to wait. Dinner ended without incident. They drove back to Carter's townhouse in silence, the soft hum of the car filling the gaps between them. Sloane looked out the window most of the way, her reflection faint against the glass. When they arrived, she stepped out first, walked ahead of him. Carter watched her carefully. The distance between them wasn't physical. It was something else, something forming quietly beneath the surface. Inside, she set her purse on the counter, her phone still inside. "I'm going to take a shower," she said. Carter nodded. "Okay." He waited until he heard the water running. Then he walked over to her purse. He didn't rush. He didn't hesitate. He simply opened it. The phone was right there. For a moment, he just stared at it. Because once you cross that line, there's no going back. "Before we go further, tell me honestly, would you have picked up the phone in that moment? Or would you have walked away and trusted her?" Carter picked it up. The screen lit up instantly. No look. That surprised him more than anything. He opened the messages. The top thread wasn't labeled with a name, just a number. And the last message read, "I miss you already." Carter's chest tightened. He scrolled. The conversation wasn't long, but didn't need to be. It was recent, and it was clear. Short messages, careful wording, emotional restraint. The kind of conversation people have when they're trying not to get caught. There were references to meeting earlier that day, to a place Carter didn't recognize. And then one message from Sloane. "This can't keep happening. followed by the reply, then stopped coming back. Carter locked the phone, placed it back exactly where it was. Then he walked away. When Sloane came out of the shower, everything looked normal. Carter was sitting on the couch, watching something on TV. She smiled. Long day. He nodded. Yeah. She sat next to him. Close. Too close. And for the first time, Carter felt something unfamiliar. Distance. Not from her physically, but for what she represented. The next few days passed quietly. Carter didn't confront her. He didn't accuse. He didn't even change his routine. But internally, something had shifted. He started noticing more. The late replies. The subtle distractions. The way she checked her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. Patterns. Always patterns. 3 days later, Carter made a decision. He called off a meeting at work, left early, and drove to the location he had seen in the messages. It was a small cafe in Stanford. Quiet. Unremarkable. He walked inside, and there she was. Sloane, sitting across from a man Carter had never seen before. They weren't touching. They weren't even leaning in. But the space between them wasn't neutral. It was familiar. Carter stood there for a moment. Then he walked forward. Sloane saw him first. Her face went pale. The man turned next. Confusion. Then realization. Carter stopped at the table. No raised voice. No scene. Just presence. Sloane stood up. Carter. He held up his hand slightly. Not aggressive. Just enough to stop her. How long? He asked. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The man stood up too. I think I should. You should, Carter said calmly. The man hesitated, then left. Just like that. Sloane looked at Carter, her composure breaking piece by piece. It's not what you think, she said. Carter almost smiled. Then tell me what it is. There was a long silence. Then she said it. It was before the engagement. Carter nodded slowly. And after? She looked down. That was enough. Before we continue, what would you do in Carter's position right now? Would you walk away immediately, or would you try to understand why it happened? Carter exhaled slowly. This wasn't a mistake, he said. Sloane shook her head. It wasn't supposed to continue, but it did. Her silence answered again. Carter stepped back, not dramatically, just enough to create space. Cancel the wedding, he said. Her eyes widened. Carter, please. He shook his head. This isn't about what you say now. He paused. It's about what you already did. Sloane's expression shifted, from panic to something else. Regret, but not the kind that fixes things. The kind that comes too late. Carter turned and walked out. No anger. No shouting. Just clarity. The wedding was canceled within a week. No public explanation. No scandal. Just quiet adjustments. Sloane tried to reach out. Called. Texted. Even showed up once. Carter didn't respond. Because some things don't need closure. They need distance. Months later, Carter heard through mutual friends that Sloane had moved to Boston. Started over. New job. New circle. And the man from the cafe? Gone. Like he was never meant to stay. Carter, on the other hand, didn't rush into anything new. He took his time, not to forget, but to understand. Because betrayal isn't just about what someone else does. It's about what it reveals. And sometimes, what it reveals is clarity. Not about them, but about what you're willing to accept and what you're not.